Melissa from Lindsay Corporation, who will introduce themselves as well as their organization and tell you a little bit about the Revenue Cloud initiative that's going on there. We're also joined by Erwan from Salesforce, who's going to tell us a bit about what's going on in the Salesforce ecosystem as far as Revenue Cloud goes and the fit for the manufacturing vertical. So you'll hear from me and Erwan for about 3 minutes each. We're going to spend most of our time hearing from Eric and Melissa about the exciting engagement that we have going on there. All right. So just a quick round of introductions from the panelists. I'll kick us off. So my name is Alex Bell. I am the Vice President of Quote to Revenue here at Uptima. So I head up all things within our Salesforce practice as it relates to Revenue Cloud. Also have a sub-practice, which is our DocuSign Agreement Cloud as well. Melissa, over to you.
Hi, I'm Melissa Moreno. I'm Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer at Lindsay Corporation.
Awesome. Eric?
Yes, Eric Fleming, VP and General Manager for Lindsay Corporation. Specifically, I lead Elecsys, which is our technology division within Lindsay.
Right. And Erwan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erwan Kerebel. I work within the Revenue Cloud product team as an outbound product manager, focusing on manufacturing at Salesforce.
Okay, very good. So just to let you all know, we will have a Q&A session at the end of our time here together. We'll save about 5 minutes for that. Please do populate your questions in the chat. I will be keeping an eye on that as we move through this, and we'll make sure that your questions get answered closer to the end. So like I said, I'm going to walk you through Uptima, our everything to revenue framework really quickly. We're going to hear from Erwan on all revenue trends for manufacturing, and then handing over to Eric and Melissa, harnessing Revenue Cloud in order to scale their business for a couple of their key brands at Lindsay. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll wrap up with that Q&A. So again, please do populate your questions in the chat. I'll keep my eye on that. All right, so Uptima, we were founded in 2007. If you head over to the App Exchange, you'll see that we celebrate a near perfect rating there. Lots of our customers have great things to say about us. What we do is we focus predominantly on Revenue Cloud and Service Cloud across manufacturing, medical device, subscription software, services, and high tech. We were selected as the implementation partner for Lindsay, given our cross-industry thought leadership. So we'll talk a little bit about that when we get into Lindsay's presentation here in a second. But we are proficient across what we call, the Uptima Infinity Loop here. We're proficient across both these key areas of Salesforce, being Revenue Cloud and Service Cloud. And so for an organization like Lindsay, that's meaningful in the fact that, when we talk about the manufacturing space, that install, use, and maintain piece of that Infinity Loop is key in the way that it connects and interacts with the revenue asset lifecycle. So we focus on transformations, not implementations. It's very important that we take a look at the behaviors around how we earn and maintain our revenue, not just simply installing a managed package. All right, so over to you, Erwan.
All right, thank you, Alex, and thank you again, everyone, for joining. Today, I just wanted to take a minute just to talk about high level, what are some of the priorities that our customers in the manufacturing sector have, and also how these priorities, how these things that are top of mind for our manufacturers, how these help shape our roadmap and innovations within our Revenue Cloud. So I'll just focus on a few numbers here, right? Obviously we see a lot of manufacturers that want to digitize their business, automate as much as they can in their processes, reduce manual processes, reduce swivel chair types of processes, and really, in a nutshell, try and react more quickly with their customers and produce quotes and contracts faster than their competition. We see as well a trend of manufacturers who want to offer a more consistent information, a more consistent experience to their customers, whatever channel their customers choose to interact with. But also, and you'll see a number that's interesting here, is the rise of the service revenue for many of our manufacturers, right? We see a large number of manufacturers who see the rise of their subscription revenue as a priority. And we see manufacturers who want to go beyond, the traditional service contract type of offer that they had before. And manufacturers introduce, sometimes software or software as a service to complement their equipment sales, or manufacturers introducing Internet of Things type of offers, or remote monitoring, or in the case of Lindsay, for example, who we will hear about in a little bit, them introducing offers around remote control, for example, as well, or again, software that complement their equipment sales. And the reality, if we go to the next slide, Alex, the reality that those manufacturers face is that they have an IT landscape that's really hindering their ability to focus on those priorities. So we see many manufacturers who grew through acquisitions and who have a pretty complex, pretty convoluted IT landscape with, sometimes multiple ERP solutions, sometimes multiple general ledgers, sometimes multiple supply chain solutions. And this makes it hard for them to automate, makes it hard for them to integrate those solutions. It makes it hard for them as well to innovate and focus on those new revenue streams that we talked about, right? Because all of their IT landscape fully is focused on, or has been focused on for the last few years, on producing parts and assemblies and equipment. So when it comes to them supporting their revenue operations for their new services business, it is very hard for them. So our vision at Salesforce, if we go to the next slide, is to offer what we call a system of engagement with Revenue Cloud, where manufacturers can now create a product catalog with any offer that they want to go market with. For example, it could be equipment sales, obviously, with simple and configurable products. It could be also software as a service, subscriptions, IoT offers, and sometimes services as well around, implementation projects, installation projects that require supporting complex projects with milestones, for example. Once our manufacturers have this product catalog, they can expose that to any channel. So salespeople can create quotes. Partners can also create quotes for their own customers, and customers can self-serve online as well. And again, we have to do this in order to support any types of products. So that means that we not only do we have to support equipment sales, but we have to support also contracts with customers, and those contracts change, right? Customers want to upgrade, downgrade in the middle of the contract. We have to support this end-to-end process as well. And we do this on the Salesforce platform, which allows us to offer the right level of flexibility in order to accommodate with any possible use case, and the right level of integrability as well with the backend system. Again, just want to keep this brief today. So happy to provide more information about Revenue Cloud, but now I want to leave the floor to Lindsay, and we'll have Eric take it over from here and present Lindsay as a company.
There you go.
Thank you, Erwan. Yes, I just want to introduce you to Lindsay real quickly before Melissa walks through our strategy with Revenue Cloud and global infrastructure for IT. Lindsay was founded in 1955. We operate in two main business segments, mechanized irrigation, which is a pivot-based irrigation system, and then the infrastructure business. Our infrastructure business is primarily focused on two areas: our road safety products, which are areas or products for the roadways globally, and then the Road Zipper, which is a one-of-a-kind machine that I would like everyone to go check out sometime, but is a safety focus and traffic efficiency product that moves concrete barrier to maximize roadways. These businesses, we have very diverse customer, whether it's a government or an individual grower. We span 9 manufacturing locations, and cover many parts of the world. I'll leave it off to Melissa.
Very good.
All right. So I began at Lindsay earlier this year. And when I came in, I found out that Lindsay had invested in some really great enterprise applications, but they were spread across the organization. And so one of my initial goals was to create a strategic architecture for the company. So I wanted to be able to identify the tools that we could build on as a company so that we could better secure the perimeter by knowing exactly what's out there. We needed to identify some efficiencies where we could leverage the tools that we had purchased across different organizations organization or different groups within the organization instead of being as siloed as we were before. I needed to centralize some of the support to IT so that we could better do that where we're going to scale the things that we have today. And because so much of this was going to be big change and a lot of money, I needed tools that would allow us to do it in multiple phases that we could chunk out and be able to attack from both resourcing and affordability.
Good.
So one of my first assignments was to go out and inventory all the different applications that we had across the company. And this is just a representation of them. But we had tools that most companies would have, like ERPs. We have a lot of ERPs, unfortunately, but a lot of those HCM tools. And we were already a Salesforce customer for our CRM. And a goal that I heard from the organization is to be able to get a 360-degree view of our customers. So I went through and first inventoried the different applications we have. And Alex, if you could go forward. Then I began to categorize them into back office type of applications, into customer facing applications, and then those that are very specific to different departments within the company. And Alex, if you could go forward. After I categorized them, then I started to sort them and look at the different buckets that we had and how we could start to identify those tools that we had that we could build on and start to slot things into these architectures. So if you go forward, the different architectures that stood out were, we have our ERP and our HCM, which are pretty common to most companies. And then we had this group of applications that were client facing, and we were using Salesforce as our CRM. And so being able to build on that and create that customer 360 view, I felt was a good use of Salesforce and the capabilities that it had. We are a Microsoft customer, so we had a lot of opportunity with that platform and the Power Platform and automation there. And then we have that bucket of other things that don't really easily slot in because they're very specific. If you go forward one more, Alex. When I began at Lindsay, Eric was already leading an initiative to automate and maximize the subscription management tools that we had today. So we have two subscription tools, Elecsys Connect and Field Net, and Eric was leading an initiative to automate those pieces. And so they had done a lot of due diligence on the selection process, and there was a front runner there. I asked Eric if he would be open to looking at a Salesforce option so that we could use Salesforce as potentially one of those strategic architectures for our company and be able to scale that and group those things together. So he's very open to it. And that led us into the Revenue Cloud discussions with Salesforce. And Eric, if you want to go.
There you go.
Thank you. As Melissa stated, coming to Revenue Cloud, we started out our journey as a manufacturer introducing technology. It was a homegrown system. So we were handling subscriptions, we were handling customer interactions with a system that we built that over time became unscalable. So about a year and a half ago, we began a broader search to understand what would we need going forward from our technology solution, knowing that building a system internally was really not a best use of our time to invest those resources versus working on innovative products. So a couple of things that stand out that we looked at from an assessment, we knew what we wanted to do today and handle kind of our base technology offering, which is your typical SaaS subscription model. But we need to look forward to what kind of new business models would we be looking at going forward, both within our Elecsys business and our irrigation business, and even into our infrastructure. We are coming across business models that may be unknown to us. It could be hardware as a service. It could be a performance-based pricing. It could be complicated structures depending on what our technology offering were. So we looked for a system that allowed that flexibility, but then to Melissa's point, really had a common back end so that we weren't creating new solutions within each one of our businesses. And I highlight three different areas here. Primarily, we want to be able to handle new businesses or new business models, wanted to be able to use it globally and have that flexibility globally, and then also handle different go-to-market strategies, primarily around how we're working with our end customers. I highlighted earlier that in the infrastructure business, it could be working with a contractor or a government agency. In the irrigation side, it could be a government in our international businesses or a local grower in our North American businesses. So Revenue Cloud allowed that flexibility and was able to get us on that path for our customer 360 view and further leverage Salesforce. Go to the next slide. So as I look at Lindsay over the last 10 years, FieldNet was our first subscription as a service offering. This was a traditional IoT remote monitoring and control of a pivot system. It's been deployed globally in many countries. And then as we've developed technology, we've started to really look at it from a differentiator to our main manufacturing business. So our core today is still within our manufacturing business, but technology and differentiating technology for our products has increasingly become a very critical part of our growth plan as we move to other areas of the business. And a couple areas here that I want to highlight as we walk through from the left, our first SaaS product, FieldNet, and the Pivot Watch was our first direct-to-consumer software as a service model. That was a do-it-yourself installation. And then we started moving towards more sophisticated business models. Road Connect, being a latest release, is an enterprise software for governments and contractors worldwide. There is also a hardware component that we're deploying out in the connected roadways space. And then Smart Pivot. Smart Pivot is something that we've talked quite publicly about. This is our next generation of autonomous pivot. This is a business model that's going to be different from the rest just because of the offerings and the tools that the system allows growers to handle. We will be looking at a range of business models to take that to market. So when you combine all of this together, differing business models, differing end customers, and then the need for a common backend, that really is what led us to Revenue Cloud and our current implementation with Salesforce. So with that, Q&A.
Yeah. So one question that I do have for you, Eric, just in thinking about the fact that you guys are so manufacturing heavy, right? So I know that right now on this slide, we're talking about a lot of your products that fit that Revenue Cloud model. Tell me a little bit about like the innovation behind that. How did that come about at Lindsay? What was it that moved you guys, or what was it that propelled you guys into that as a service space, for that recurring revenue, that predictable revenue, that ongoing long-term revenue?
Yeah, a lot of it was very customer driven in combination with a lot of forward thinking of other companies. There's a lot of exciting technology companies out there. A common question we ask ourselves internally is, what are startups doing today that we could leverage back into our core business? So that really drove a lot of our future innovative ideas, in combination with a heavy focus on our end customers and how we can better serve them through both our core product and our technology.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of the reception of these products, tell us a bit about that. Like, how have your customers received this? Because I know when we're talking about customers who are very agricultural focused, it's not when you think about those types of users, they're not heavy on the technology side, right? So often they're growers. Tell us about the adoption and the reception of those products in that space.
Yeah, well, the reception is always great. I think there's a couple things that help us out for the long term. One is just the new generations of growers worldwide, but more importantly, a focus on sustainability, efficiency, using technology to further their own business interests. If you look at a large grower that might have farms across many miles, being able to efficiently understand, is my field getting water correctly? Do I have a breakdown? So that's a lot of where we're at from a mindset with the company. In terms of the pivot itself, it hasn't fundamentally changed a lot in 50 years. There's been some tweaks, but it still maintains the same value that it has when we first found it. So technology and tools that we can make our customers' lives a little bit easier is really one of the the key items that they're looking for as they scale their own businesses and we continue to grow our business.
So I have a question here. The question is, if you were going to give advice to other manufacturers looking to pivot into the as a service space, what advice would you give them?
My advice would be to take it step by step. It's one of those, it's very easy to come up with an idea, but strong customer feedback and a deliberate focus on a couple key areas to make their life a little easier is a great starting point. And from there, the customers will be more than willing to tell you what they actually want to make their job a little easier.
No, absolutely agree with you. So another question here. And I'm going to modify this question a little bit because I will say that Lindsay isn't through their Revenue Cloud implementation yet. We're about halfway there for two of their key brands, which are Elecsys and Field Net. But the question essentially is, how is your implementation going? What are some of the lessons learned that you've taken from this implementation? Is there anything you would have done differently? And the last part of it is, I'm modifying this, forgive me. So how do you believe that Revenue Cloud is going to enable you further as it relates to revenue growth?
Yeah, I can start, Melissa, maybe add. So, knowing technology is a differentiation for the company. Revenue Cloud encompasses just more than our subscription. So right now, we are also implementing CPQ, configure price quoting, for our mainline business within the Elecsys brand. So from an implementation standpoint, this has gone very well because this gets us on the path to automate quote to cash. In terms of the subscription side of the business, one thing when implementing Revenue Cloud is to be very clear on the expectations of what is customer facing and what is back-end impact. And while we had eyes wide open going into it, that continues to be one of the areas that we focus very diligently on to make sure, one, we don't unnecessarily complicate our implementation, but two, what is the objective we're trying to get out of it? And that is always, how do we have better visibility into what our customer is doing? So with Revenue Cloud, we have both mainline business visibility and our subscription business, which really allows us to use that data going forward with our customers.
In your prior state, or let's call it your as-is state, have you guys realized any type of revenue leakage by not being able to have accurate or adequate visibility into your customer? And so when I say revenue leakage, not defining what a customer truly is in the subscription model, right? So keeping them on your service while their contracts have expired, or maybe they've canceled their contracts, we're still providing that service. In your as-is state, is that one of the pain points that drove you to consolidating on a platform and really giving you that visibility into those customer metrics?
Yes, absolutely. And there's been some questions around adoption and how customers are using it, or even manufacturers implementing new business models. One thing to understand is we're not in the startup space, so we're not going to see a hockey growth curve where you can understand what the impact is. So there's significant investment in the technology resources, and the visibility into how it's performing becomes imperative for future investment. So instead of maybe growth of subscriptions, it becomes a churn metric or a lifetime value, or do we see growth among certain customer segments? And up to this point, that was a very manual process. You can make some assumptions and we can look at some data, but it wasn't real time. And it really didn't tie it back down into the market segmentation that you would want from a system providing clear view into the customer.
Very good. So if we have we just have 1 minute to go here. So I want to make sure that those who want to get in touch with you, whether that's, just from a conversation, lessons learned perspective, new customers, what's the best way to interact with your organization? Oh, you're on mute, I think.
I would say start with LinkedIn.
There you go. Perfect. Very good. All right, all. Well, we are at the bottom of the hour. Thank you so much for all of you who came today and spent some time with us. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to all of the questions. What I can do, though, is take those questions back into Lindsay Corp, and I will try and get those published out to you. So thank you again all for your time today. It's been really great speaking with both of you, Eric and Melissa, and Erwan, thank you so much for guiding us through Revenue Cloud for the manufacturing vertical. And of course, Lindsay, your continued partnership with Uptima.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody.